updates webinar. These updates are going to occur the last Friday of each month at 10:30. So this will be something we offer monthly on the regular. Please share that with your teams and encourage anybody that you think would benefit from hearing these updates so that they can join us in the future. Typically, Rachel Osterling, the Tier 2 Central Area Lead, will be doing these, but she had something come up, so I am going to play the role of Rachel today. So welcome, and I hope you enjoy our updates. To start us off, Rachel thought it would be a good idea for us to introduce who our team is and put a face to our names. So since we're a virtual team, we wanted to make just a visual of who our team members are, and it's always nice to have that face to go with who's behind the scenes on emails and phone calls. So to start off, I am the director and I am Marie Evans. And then we have our Western area lead who covers Kansas City, Albany, Springfield, and Joplin, and that is Nicole Jones. Our Central area lead is Rachel, and she covers CMRO, Kirksville, Poplar Bluff, Rolla. And then our Eastern area lead is Carl, and he covers St. Louis, Hannibal, and Sikeston areas. And then we also wanted to introduce our consultants. So on the Western team, we have Ashley Boyer, who is domiciled in Kansas City Regional Office. Again, she covers that whole Western area. And then we have Stacy Law, who's housed in Albany, and Rashawn Simpson, who is also housed in Kansas City Regional Office. Then for our central team, we have Wade Marvin, who's housed in Kirksville, Rebecca Welshmeyer, who's at CMRO, and James Albin, who is at Poplar Bluff Regional Office. And then for our Eastern team, we have Yakista Mason, who is in our St. Louis Regional Office, Robin Cottrell, who is at Poplar Bluff, and Stephen Hibner, who is in Springfield. So to get us started, what's been happening lately, we had members of our team present at the school-wide Positive Behavior Support Summit at the Lake in June. They presented on a statewide approach to residential transitions, shifting from individual planning to a systems approach and what that looks like and how it can help our most vulnerable populations, specifically children that are going through the child-specific contract process or an interdivisional agreement process. And that presentation was so well received that Carl and Rachel were invited back next year to be speakers for a panel. So super excited to hear that. And we're also going to be partnering with DESE to discuss what we're doing with Tier 2 here at the state level with individuals with developmental disabilities or mental illnesses and how they might adapt some of what we're doing to the school-wide system. So that's pretty exciting. And then we have our transition webpage and resources. So just a reminder, we've had this up and going for about a year now, but I just wanted to remind folks that we have the roles and responsibilities on there, the process maps in case you're a visual learner and you don't want to read through all of the text that's in the roles and responsibilities. We do have it mapped out. And then we also post our workshop resources and materials on there as well. And then as far as training and getting involved goes, so if you want to be more involved in the transition enhancements and process, we do have some things to help get your voice out there and heard. We have our monthly transition coffee and chats that have been going on for a year. Leads host those, and we're actually going to start having our risk prevention consultants start hosting those in August. So you can get to know who they are and get input from them. And what those coffee and chats look like is they're structured problem solving where you can come together with other state support coordinators out in the community, TCM tax, QERNs, like anybody that touches the transition process can come together and talk about, what are some pain points that they're seeing, so what's not working, and what are some ideas that are constructive that you might have to make things better. So it's really neat to hear it's less of complaining that sometimes happens when things aren't going well, and more of like a proactive, hey, here's what we think would work better if we could try doing this differently. And it's been really insightful to hear what all the different roles have to say about transitions. And we're taking that feedback and trying to figure out how we can make the system better overall. And then we also have, in addition to the problem solving, we have our monthly transition and extra scoop workshops. So our transition workshops are the same every month. You would only attend one ideally to get the information, because again, it's the same information every single month, unless you want to come back for a refresher. And those happen monthly. And I'll show you how to register for those in just a minute. And then we also have, beyond transitions, we have our extra scoop workshops, which get into more of the meat, I guess, behind risk prevention. So topics like safety crisis planning is our next one, added staffing, what to do if you have extra staff working with a person to make sure that they're functioning as a support and not as in-home police. Psychotropic medications, knowing your role, just lots of different topics that we know lead to risk and what we can do to help prevent that risk from happening. And those also happen monthly. Starting this fall, we are going to, the area leads and myself are going to be traveling to regional offices to do in-person transition training for our state support coordinator, supervisors, or SC3s or 2s. So whoever's responsible for training within that unit would show up and get this material, hear from us, and be able to take that back to their teams. We have lots of resources and tools that our MAC-DDS group has built that we're trying to get out there for everybody to have in the event that they find it helpful. If you don't find it helpful, you don't have to use it, but it's there if you want it. And then we also have an extra scoop workshop that's going to be hybrid in August, which means you could join either via WebEx like this, or you could come to central office in person and get training on what a safety crisis plan assessment looks like. How do you do it? How do you build out the safety crisis plan itself? We have a template available that we'll walk through. And then we'll also talk about crisis cycles in general and things to look out for and things that staff can do differently to help decrease the likelihood of a crisis event escalating. So with that, I'm going to leave this page up for a minute. We're getting fancy now with our QR codes. So we do have the slide, and it'll be posted to the web page too if you aren't able to get your phone out and quickly scan these. But we have QR codes for the main DD website, for the Tier 2 web page, tiered supports, and then community transitions. Feel free to scan those now or go back to these slides later and scan them if you want. I'm also going to pull them up in Chrome so you can see how to navigate to them yourself. So from our main developmental disabilities webpage, which I'll put in the chat box for you. From there, you can follow along and you scroll down to community supports here, and then you're going to click on positive supports. From there, you can see all of the different things we have going on within positive supports. If you want to know more about applied behavior analysis, you can click here and it'll take you to that page. If you want to know more about the Missouri Alliance for Dually Diagnosed, that button's right here. Maybe you have some staff you want to take tools of choice training. You can click there to learn how to sign up and more about that. But for now, I'm going to take us to the tiered supports landing page. Here, if you want to contact someone on our team and you're not quite sure how to reach them, if you go to MTSS, we have our tiered supports contact list here, which has everybody and their emails listed out. We have our tiered supports brochure if you want to learn more about what tiered supports is. We have a webinar if you want to, if you don't want to read, you want to listen, we have that available as well. You want to know what the heck do we mean when we talk about risk? We have our tiered supports risk graphic there as well, which goes through all of the different risk indicators. For now, I'm going to move us down to the Tier 2 Targeted Strategies button. And there you can watch an overview of what Tier 2 is. I know we're getting lots of questions about what is Tier 2, how does it fit in with what the risk prevention consultants are doing. It's short, it's I think 12 minutes long or less. So there's that. And then we have those workshops I talked about on the previous slide. If you're interested in the transitions one, you can click there to register. If you're interested in those extra scoops like the safety crisis plan training and things like of that nature, you can click on an extra scoop and register. We have our community transition webpage listed here. Under targeted interventions and training, there's lots of information available as well for risk prevention in general beyond transitions. So if you click on training, you can see all of our previous extensive amounts of training we've done regarding risk prevention to help support teams as they support people. And then under targeted interventions, you can see those extra scoop workshop materials are being posted here so that you can access them after you come to the workshop if you want. And then community transitions, when you click there, it'll take you to our transitions webpage. You can also get to this transition webpage from the SC manual, the online SC manual. So we have lots of different entry points for this one just to make it easy for folks to find. From there, we have our provider notice portal that residential providers will go to now to enter 30-day notice. We have our coffee and chat join event button here. So if you want to join coffee and chat, it's a WebEx. You don't have to register. It's just come and join if you want to that month. If not, then you can come back and join another month. Here we have just simple breakdowns of what's a transition, what's the policy supporting our transition process. The most important, I think, tabs you're going to find here are resources and forms. This is where we have our community transition manual, which is our process maps, our roles and responsibilities, and some situational documents. We have our checklist on here, the referral profile, the housemate compatibility, all of that. And I know it's a lot, so I do want to let you guys know there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We are looking at how to make a more streamlined, easy to use referral system than the clunky system that is currently in place. And then under training and live support, you can find all of those transition resource tools that our Enhancing Transition work group has put together. So if you want to check that out, that is all there. Now I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. All right, moving on from the web page. This is really more about what I just talked about on the previous slide. So again, our next extra scoop is August 16th at 1:30 here at Central Office and online via WebEx. It is safety crisis plans, how to keep them useful, how to do them, and how to help folks that are in crisis. During starting the month of August, our risk prevention consultants are going to be co-hosting transition training for the first time. For the past year, it's been myself and the risk prevention area leads, and now we're going to start training the risk prevention consultants on how to do these themselves starting in August. And then they will fully take over transition training in January of 2023. And why this is important is it increases our ability to offer more training times and more localized training as well. So we could have more training happening in person at the regional offices if teams find that valuable. We do have recorded training available on the webpage that I just showed you. And then again, just a reminder that our risk prevention consultants will take over hosting the coffee and chats in August. And then new stuff. So what's going on that's new? We did start implementing as of July 1st. So earlier this month, we started implementing the emergency placement process, which previously was our crisis tracker process that happened at the regional office director level. So support coordinators would reach out to a regional office director for any of their individuals that were in crisis and provide weekly updates. And the director would update the Excel file for the regional office. And what we found is that there was a lot of double work happening. So we had the risk prevention consultants also getting weekly updates for mostly the same individuals. So we decided to streamline our process and eliminate some of the duplication and workload that was happening. So now what the new emergency placement process will look like, formally the crisis tracker process, is the regional office director or assistant director will fill out an emergency form and email that to the risk prevention leads. And then the lead is going to review the documentation, make sure they're not already on the CRD, things like that. And if they're not already assigned to somebody, they're going to assign a risk prevention consultant to the case who is going to enter all of their basic demographic information into SharePoint. They're going to work with the support coordinator who is responsible for completing the emergency update questions. So previously we would ask for just, hey, do you have any updates? And that wasn't really getting the information that the state needed to be able to problem solve an action plan, what they could do to help this person. And so the whole team, support coordinators, risk prevention consultants, regional office directors, all came together and developed what questions they found would be helpful to have answered by the support coordinator to prompt some follow-up action from other members of the team. So those questions are what we're going to ask for in an emergency update form, and that'll get sent from the support coordinator to the risk prevention consultant weekly for any case that's deemed emergency, or what we used to call crisis. And then the regional office director and the risk prevention consultant will determine if we need to be having weekly or bi-weekly meetings, or if email updates will suffice. Because if it's an emergency, we really do need to be touching base weekly to know what's going on and how everybody can help, because otherwise it's probably not an emergency if it can wait longer than a week. All right, and then back to tiered supports, we wanted to share a little bit about how Tier 2 fits in within the multi-tiered system of support. So we know at the Tier 1 positive supports level, those are our universal supports. They are, if you're thinking of a house, they are our foundation. They're those systems that are required for all people, staff, settings to be able to have their needs met. You can't build a house without a foundation or it's going to sink. So we really need our Tier 1 universal supports. And then beyond that, we need some scaffolding, right? You can't have a house with just a foundation. So Tier 2 works as some scaffolding to help build the house. It's extra support or specialized interventions for people, staff, and settings where we're seeing tier one's just not enough, right? You need an extra scoop. There's some risky behavior happening, and the person, staff, regional office are at risk of needing tier three or more intensive supports if they don't get that risk prevention support first. And then beyond that, you need a roof, right? You need roof, and that's our individual supports. So we have our tier three intensive supports, which are those high level intensive systems for people, staff settings, again, regional offices where we have some high risk behavior or situations happening. So all three tiers work together to really create wraparound supports, no matter which level you're looking at. It could be at the level of a person who needs all of these supports. It could be a regional office who needs these supports, or the state system as a whole. So some examples of tier one positive supports for the state system would be like our culture club, right? We're working on how do we build a more positive culture? We're defining our values. We're taking data. We have an action plan. We have our DMH strategic plan. We have our recognition system that we're implementing, our shout outs that are happening. So those would be like our foundational positive supports for the state. And then sometimes we know that's not enough. So what are some tier two risk prevention supports for the state would be maybe, some staff need more than just the universal shout outs. And so having regular check-ins with them, or our director coffee and chats, so that we can all touch base. So having that more specialized intervention can be helpful. And then intensive supports would be one-on-one check-ins, or maybe you need some mentorship to hone a new skill, things like that. It's just a different way to think about tiered supports if you zoom out to the state level, and how that can be applied. And with that, I want to say thank you for joining. Let me pull up the chat box because I can't see it. Okay. Okay, so Dana Marshall is asking if the coffee and chat could be set up as a WebEx that could be registered for in advance, similar to the Friday coffee and chat calls with Jess, or the DD bi-weekly calls. That is good feedback. I will take that back to the team and chat with Kat and see what we can do about that. Thanks, Dana. All right. Well, I don't see anything else in the chat box other than that. So thank you guys for joining today. We look forward to seeing y'all next month. If you have things that you want included on our updates, please email us at tier2@dmh.mo.gov, and we'll be sure to make sure we cover that next time. Thanks, everybody.